Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge. And today I'm doing a video on romance tropes that I hate. I previously had done one that I love. I've done things about like historical romance tropes, but today I'm just doing kind of in general romance tropes that I hate, and I have 6 of them. Granted, with all tropes, they can be done well, and there are exceptions to every rule, but in general, these are romance tropes that if I hear ahead of time that they happen, I'm not super into the book unless, it takes more incentive to read them, because I see them done wrong way more than I see them done right, and usually it just ends up leaving me super frustrated. One of the other things I need to say about romance is that in general, I think we all dislike miscommunication tropes, and that's the thing. In romance, especially when it is strictly a romance novel, like where it's not a fantasy romance or a suspense novel with romance or a mystery with romance, when it is the plot of the book is romance, generally misunderstanding is how you have there be stakes. It's how you have the couple have their first fight where they really have to prove if they're still going to be together. That is something that has to happen in a romance. There has to be something that is keeping them apart, because if it's just a story where everything goes perfectly and there's nothing keeping these two people from it working, well, then it's not really a story, because a story still needs to have a plot and a rise and fall. However, the miscommunications that I have on my list, which all of them are basically a miscommunication or lack of communication, but it's the kind of miscommunication that there is, and things that really should have been talked about, whereas there still is going to be miscommunication because we're humans. Think of all the times in your real life that you run into that. But these are the ones that I rarely see them done right, and they just make me roll my eyes and make me want to stop reading. So let's go ahead. The first one, and this one has happened in a lot of romances I've read lately, and that is when there is a secret child. Now, I mean this in 2 ways. One, I mean it if one of the love interests is purposely keeping a child a secret, like they think the other person can't handle it, or they are protective of their child, which I understand, but it's when they keep it a secret past the point that it's necessary. When you're already thinking of moving in with this person and you haven't said that there's a child, that's messed up. That usually happens maybe on the side of the man, but I've seen it done in both, where one of the members of the couple is keeping that a secret. I'm actually someone who, I'm a fan of one of the love interests being a parent, or both of them. I just don't think you should keep your child a secret past a certain point in the book. If you have a one-night stand with this person, cool, you don't have to tell them you have a kid. But if you are asking for commitment from this person or wanting things to get deeper, you need to tell. Also, I'm not going to be giving examples for these because they're kind of spoilers for the story. The other way of a secret child is, you have a one-night stand and a baby results of it, and you never tell the person, even when now you come back into their life and you keep them a secret. I've seen this in a few books recently, and it really makes me angry because that other person deserves to know, especially if they haven't done anything to make you angry. Let's say they just disappeared or you were afraid to reach out to them or whatever. That is one of the worst lies that I can think of, and I hate it. Again, I've seen this done well a couple of times where there's a reason they couldn't get in touch, like they were absolute strangers and couldn't find the person, or that person had done something to make you think they were shady, so you didn't want to tell. I can see that, but I still don't like it. The next one I have here is the one that pisses me off the most. And that is when there's a misunderstanding about the person's ex or past lover or ex-wife or ex-husband or whatever, where the new love interest sees you talking to that person or hears you talking to that person and gets really pissed and then won't talk to you or is irrational about it. We all have relationships we have to deal with. That person was in deep with that person who's an ex, and for you to just assume that they're wanting back with that person or get super jealous or not think it through, that really, really bothers me, because this new person you've just spent all this time getting to know, you know they have an ex, and then you see them together and you're all of a sudden like, I can't do this. You have feelings for this person. And it's like, no, if they had feelings for that person, they would be with them. So I really, really hate the miscommunication trope of you see them talking to this person and you assume that they're getting back together. Maybe they just need to exchange their stuff that got left at their house. Or maybe they really cared about that ex's family. Like they were family before they got divorced or weren't together. And they want to talk about things. Don't jump to conclusions. I hate that. Ask a question. Don't immediately get jealous and bitter and not work it out. Like I hate that so much. Next I maybe offended them, so I'm not going to talk to them. So this, I mean, not where that person pisses you off and you don't want to talk to them, but you think you've done something to upset them because maybe they're distracted by something else and they don't kiss you goodbye for work, and you assume you hurt them and you immediately run away. This I see happen kind of in the beginning of relationships, or I've seen it happen where I recently just read this in one where it was a male-male romance. It was a gay romance, and the partner who had always been gay thinks that they went too far with the person and then just runs away. And it's like, if you want to get into this romantic, deep relationship with this person, why don't you ask first? Even when like there was consent through the whole situation, being afraid to like ask how things went, it just bothers me so much. I'm like, obviously it was good. Why are you assuming that they're afraid and going to run away when they've shown no indication? Or give them a moment to process it, because maybe they had never looked at another man that way before and they just need a second. It doesn't mean they're freaking out or running away or having, clutching their pearls that, oh my God, I kissed another man, I need to run. I've read this a lot recently and it just bothers me. It's like, that person was brave enough and vulnerable with you to let it get to that point. Why don't you ask them? That's what a lot of these come down to. Like they said, they're all miscommunications. Next, this one is letting the family keep them apart. So this is either you trying to remove yourself from the situation so the person doesn't have to pick you over their family, or the family is an asshole and doesn't think you should be together, whether this is like a rich-poor situation or a race situation, or maybe, again, it's an assumption and not an actual thing. That always bothers me so much. And especially in situations where it's such a big deal that people break up. This happens a lot in second chance romances where when they were young, they were afraid that they couldn't handle their parents disapproving, so they don't see each other for 10, 15 years when really they could have just fought through it at the beginning. Again, I've seen this done well. Sometimes you're dealing with dangerous families. It depends on the romance, and you do need to be a little bit smart. But a lot of times, it's just fear and not trusting that that person would pick you. That's a big pet peeve of mine, that you don't trust the person that you love. You get my meaning? You get where we're going with all of these? Okay, now I'm talking about one that isn't a miscommunication. This is a trope that I hate, and there's a specific line that I mean. So if you've watched a few of my videos, you know that I like a bit darker romances. I just made a video about my favorite dark romances. And a lot of time the reason these are dark is there's a lot of like angst and there's a lot of like banter and like it's dark and deep and there's a lot of emotions running really high, or maybe it's a taboo situation or this or that. And I have read some bully romances, and some of them I liked and some of them I haven't. And I've read, like recently I read the Degradation series by Stylo Fantôme, which these characters literally get off on calling each other names. However, the name calling and the way they treat each other is consensual, as in the girl likes it when she's talked to that way, but she doesn't let him talk to her that way in their everyday life. She's like, if we're not in the bedroom, if we're not in that scenario, you can't call me stupid or dumb or a slut. Like, you can't call me those things. What I don't like is when, maybe this is a hate to love. It's usually a hate to love is when this is happening. Because that's what bully romances are, is hate to love, is when one of the partners, usually a man, I haven't really read where like the women have been the bully. That would be an interesting one, but I haven't read one of those, where they are genuinely horrible. Like they've played pranks on them, they've maybe sexually assaulted them, they call them horrible names, and the other character just thinks that's so hot. And there's no BDSM happening in this situation. There's no consent ahead of time. this man is straight up abusive in some way, and all of a sudden the girl thinks that's hot. And I'm not a fan of that, especially when there's never any discussion about it and she just thinks it's hot and it's fine that this guy's treating her horrible. To me, that's abuse. And that's a lot different than it gets me hot and bothered when we have like conflict beforehand. I absolutely hate that. I am not here for abuse. I'm here for it when it is consensual between both people and it is a turn on to be treated a little bit badly, but not this guy is an asshole and he's abusive to you and that like really turns you on just all the way. And or the girl actually hates it and she's like, wow, you're so mean to me, and then we're fine with it. A couple of Penelope Douglas's books come to mind. Even though I like some of her books, the Devil's Night series, I will just never understand how those couples got together. But some people like that stuff. I just don't. And we're talking about me. And then finally, we have to keep ourselves a secret because. Now, here is the caveat to this. I think a secret love affair is pretty sexy. I think there are situations where we're not ready to tell people, or someone has a particular job where they can't know, or it's a taboo situation where it's really sexy and it's fun. However, usually in that case, especially if it's a taboo case, the reason that they're a secret is because they don't think other people will accept them, or they're worried about losing their job or a family member. And that's okay for part of the novel, or that's okay if they both want to tell, but they're afraid. But when they honestly like refuse to ever tell anyone about you, and one character spends half of the book just trying to convince their love interest to let them be out in public, I think that is really messed up. And to me, that is a form of abuse that you need to be kept secret by the other person. Again, some people can like those kind of romances. That's just something that makes me roll my eyes. And I've read a few lately where it's done really well, specifically some male-male romances where they just didn't know how their family would react, or they were straight all their lives and now they're interested in different kinds of relationships and they don't know how to come out. That seems like a realistic situation to me. I don't know how I would handle that. Those aren't feelings that I have myself, so I don't have to worry about that. But when it's legitimately, I just don't want to tell anyone because no one will understand and I can't do it, it just gets annoying to me because it's like, well, then you shouldn't have entered into this relationship with this person who deserves to be acknowledged and loved in public. And if you can't do that, it's not right. All right, those are 6 romance tropes that I don't like. There is a video where I go over the ones that I do like. You can check that out, as well as you can check out my dark romance recommendations if you want to know somewhere some of these tropes may be done correctly, and I'm okay with it. So thank you so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell if you want to know when I put up more. Thanks so much. Bye.